What is up, everybody? Eric here from That's Wrestling. Thanks for tuning in today. If you would like to send me a message or anything, you can send me an email, eric@thatswrestling.com. If you are watching this over on YouTube and you'd like to get the podcast version of this, you can get it on all your favorite podcast directories, as well as pick up the RSS feed over at thatswrestling.com. If you're listening to this on podcast, this is the post show for AEW Dynamite, and I'm actually doing this live on YouTube right now. So if you'd like to see this live and come into the chat and participate and all that fun stuff, be sure to follow the link in the show notes, and you can come over and hang out with me right after AEW goes off the air, maybe 5-10 minutes or so, and come join the fun over there. Link is in the show notes, like I said. So tonight, we have brand new tag team champions, and those champions are SCU, Scorpio Sky, Frankie Kazarian. They have beaten the Lucha Bros in a fantastic match to end out this show. So I will be getting to that. First, I just want to touch a little on the AEW Dark from last night. Very good show. Well, actually, I wouldn't say it was a very good show. It was a good show. The women's four-way was a little rough. There were some very bad video edits that I saw in it. And yeah, like you could tell they were trying to cover something up, and it just didn't work how it should have. And it was a little sloppy at times. It was an okay match. It definitely was not anywhere near good or the best match that they've had, but you know, it was a serviceable match, I guess. But I don't know what happened during those cuts, because there was some very bad video editing in there where you definitely see that they cut out some stuff. It could have just been 5 seconds worth of stuff, or it could have been a botch or something like that. There was just some cuts that really did not work. Also, there was the Sonny Kiss and Dustin Rhodes versus Peter Avalon and QT Marshall. Nothing super impressive on that match, though it was, just a fun match seeing Dustin Rhodes and Sonny Kiss teaming up together. They seem to work very well together, so there was nothing really any problems there, and hopefully the feedback that I'm getting in my headphones is not coming through to you guys. I think it's actually just in my headphones. Also, there was a great match. It was Darby Allin versus Jimmy Havoc and Jack Evans in a triple threat Falls Count Anywhere. So this match was pretty much a no DQ match at this point. There was a bunch of crazy spots, and Darby Allin won when Jack Evans set up a table in the corner so he set it up in the turnbuckle side with one end of the table on one set of ropes and the other end on the adjacent set of ropes. So it was kind of sitting there on the second ropes right there in the corner. And he was going to he laid Jimmy Havoc out on it, but then Jimmy Havoc popped up when Jack Evans was up on the top turnbuckle. Jimmy Havoc gave Jack Evans a pile driver through that table, and then while Jimmy Havoc was pinning Evans, Darby Allin hit a coffin drop on the both of them using a chair, and Darby Allin ended up pinning Jack Evans for the win. Something interesting that happened after the match is that Jimmy Havoc, even though he had lost to Darby Allin previously for the number one contendership, he actually gave Darby Allin a little fist bump before leaving the ring as a show of respect. So it's going to be interesting how those two play out. It looked like they were kind of going to be enemies because they have been in quite a few matches together already. I think at least 3 that I can think of. And I thought they were going to be rivals. It seems that they have a healthy respect for each other at this point, so we'll see how that plays out. So that was it for AEW Dark. Overall, decent show, but the women's match was a little sloppy. There was also a very good MJF segment. I forget what the undesirable to undeniable segment with Cody, and MJF was just golden in that. So you can go check that out. It's over on YouTube for free. Also, okay, so the start of the show was Cody and Dustin arriving in a private airplane. Tony Schiavone was there waiting for them. They gave each other a hug and were just kind of mumbling some stuff to each other. And then Tony and Cody are going to end up taking a limo to the event together so they can chat in the back of the limo on the way over. And then they played a previously on segment, which was nice to see. They did a last week promo video. They showed what happened after the event went off the air, though I saw it because I was watching the Fight TV feed, and that was all on the Fight TV feed. They also had a replay on Friday night going directly against SmackDown, which had like somewhere around like 200,000+ viewers that night for the replay, and they also played the rest of the footage from after the show ended on that particular feed as well last Friday, so that was good to see. And then after they showed that promo package, they showed Moxley backstage last week going into Tony Khan's office, and Tony was saying that, AEW cannot sanction the match between Omega and Moxley because it's just gotten way out of control, and they think it's just going to degrade into something horrible, so they cannot sanction the match. They can still have the match, but AEW will not be held responsible for that. Moxley's pissed because he wants the win on his record. He's mad that it's not going to be part of his win-loss record. So now Omega and Moxley at Full Gear is going to be an unsanctioned match. So I don't know if that's going to be a lights out match at the end of the show or if it's just going to be an unsanctioned match in the middle of the show. I would assume it's going to be in the middle of the show because the title match should technically go on last if they're going to maintain that, the type of sports feel. Though if it is a lights out match, I guess technically it has to happen last. So we'll see how that goes. Something funny that I noticed was, well, I guess everybody noticed if you were watching, all the turnbuckle pads had Rick and Morty on them. So it was Rick and Morty written on the top and bottom, and then there is a picture of Rick and Morty in the portal right in the middle. So this is kind of a bit of a crossover because Rick and Morty is coming back in a couple days over on Cartoon Network. They're both Turner properties, the channels are, so that is why there's some cross branding, which was really fun later on in the show. The first match is Hangman Page versus Sammy Guevara. I picked up that as a 15-minute time limit. This was a pretty good match. Definitely there was some back and forth, and then Hangman kind of took control for the most part. Hangman did a nice catch when Sammy was doing a crossbody off the top rope, and then he does a fall-away slam. Sammy pulls, at one point, Hangman is standing on the ring. Sammy pulls his feet out from under him, and Hangman's back runs down like the edge of the apron. So like he hits his lower back and then he hits the back of his neck on the way down. Looked like a nasty fall, not something you'd want to do very often. Then they're up on the apron again at some point, and Hangman hits a sidewalk slam on Sammy right on the edge of the apron, and then he pushes him into the ring, hits a power bomb for a 2 count. Both men are really kind of working at kind of a slow pace. Like after they hit something, they just take so much time to do something follow up that, at these points is when the other person kind of turns things around. So we had a bit of a back and forth where, Sammy would hit something and he'd gloat to the audience, and then Hangman would hit something and he'd kind of look out at he wasn't like gloating to the audience, but he just wasn't showing any sense of I'm trying to win this match. So that was kind of something that happened. Hangman hits a moonsault off the top rope to the floor that he likes to do. Very much like Charlotte. You end up seeing it in every match for whatever reason. He should probably kind of tuck that away in his tool belt so he doesn't do it every single match, because I think I've seen it in every single match he's had so far in AEW. Sammy scouts a buckshot lariat, but then moments later, Hangman hits it anyways and picks up the 3 count there. So, decent match, nothing spectacular. After the match, Hangman picks up the microphone, says things haven't been very good for him lately, but going into Full Gear, he felt that tonight was good, and that, that when he takes on Pac, he's going to take off Pac's head, and he says that he's going to be doing some real cowboy shit at Full Gear. The crowd chants cowboy shit over and over and over, and JR mentions, well, that's a t-shirt right there. And then we get a Full Gear commercial. Apparently, they are now named Pround-n-Powerful is the name of Santana and Ortiz. That is the name of their tag team now. It is a quick segment. I'm not sure. Since I was watching the fight feed, Private Party welcomed Rock and Roll Express. Nothing really happened there. And then the next match we have is newcomer Shanna, I guess it's Shanna, versus Hikaru Shida. And the Shanna, she is from France, originally born in Portugal, so this is her first foray in AEW. Match starts off pretty quick right as they get into the ring. I noticed the ref didn't check the wrestlers like they normally do, though I didn't pick up on any of the other matches if they also did wrestler checks for, weapons and all that fun stuff. I don't know if it's something that AEW does all the time or whatnot. I can't remember. There's some sloppy strikes in here, good amount of daylight for some of the kicks that I saw. On the outside, Shida actually sets up a chair and she uses it as kind of a springboard to hit a high knee. Really good. This match actually got a commercial break. It was that long. They just kind of exchanged a bit of back and forth during the commercial break. And then there was a spot where Shida was on the second turnbuckle and her hands were holding herself. So she's laid out kind of flat, hanging up in the air. And this is just one of those spots that really drives me nuts, because Shanna was on the top rope and she just played to the crowd, and it looks so stupid. And even JR said, don't think about it, just do it. And then she does the double stomp. But it's like, okay, Shida was hanging out there way too long, and now she just looks like an idiot for holding on to that position. And those are one of those things that once you get into the position, you have to hit the move, or just it makes your opponent look so weak and stupid. And it's something that really bothers me when I see it. So I hope people realize that and stop doing that type of thing. Same thing with the trio. Whoa, somebody's hanging in there way too long. You gotta get your stuff in when you have somebody hung up like that, because then they just look like total morons by just standing there or sitting there or doing whatever. Shida hits this weird reverse pile driver. It's like part of the strong zero. So I don't know what that move actually is, when they have the person slung over their back and their head is kind of sticking out from the person's legs, and then they kind of drop down. I don't know what that's called, but whatever. And then she does a suplex from the outside to the inside. Shida hits a running knee and then a Falcon Arrow for a tube, and then hits a Bomaye. They didn't call it that, running knee, whatever you want to call it, for the 3 count. It was a decent match, but the beginning was a little bit sloppy with some very wide strikes that weren't even close. But it was a decent match. Probably one of the better women's matches that I've seen so far in AEW, but yeah, it's not a huge list at the moment. Next up, we have something that I've been begging for all the past weeks, is we're getting another video package, which is great. So far, we've had, a couple couple of video packages. We had the opening video package and the Full Gear commercial, so kind of bolstering that. And now we have a Brandy promo package. It was very strange. She was, doing her makeup, and she was kind of making like a little altar with the pictures of all the women on the roster, and it kind of looks like she was summoning Awesome Kong. I mean, it was a really cool package and definitely intriguing, so I guess we'll see how it goes. But if they do these types of packages, I will not mind as long as the story works out. But the package was a little weird and out there, but we'll see how it goes. And then we had the Rock and Roll Express came out, and they're going to present the new tag team belts. Gibson says that they beat Allie and Arn Anderson in this very building, and then right after that, Santana and Ortiz attack from behind with loaded socks. So if you've ever seen Full Metal Jacket when they beat up Sergeant Pyle with the socks with the soap in them, that's what it looked like. And then they give Ricky Morton a double power bomb through a piece of the staging. It's kind of right in front of the staging where they set the strip lights and all that stuff, but it was cleared off, so it was an obvious place. It was an obvious, breakaway prop and whatever. So they powerbomb. Then the Bucks come out. Santana and Ortiz run off at this point. And then that was the end of the segment. And, wow, the Rock and Roll Express do look old. I saw them performing with New Japan a few weeks ago. And I think taking bumps in the ring is probably worse than this power bomb through, the gimmick staging with probably tons of padding. So it was probably easier to take that than taking a bump in a hard ring. So I'm not too worried about them. And like I said, even at their age, I saw them with New Japan. I was quite impressed, especially when Ricky Morton did got a Hurricane Rana right in the middle of the ring from standing. So very, they still have plenty of mileage on them, it seems. And then next up, we had Alex Reynolds, John Silver, and QT Marshall versus Best Friend and Orange Cassidy. So look, the jobbers are back. Alex Reynolds and John Silver were the team that Santana and Ortiz squashed a few weeks ago. Tony Schiavone, and then so they come out to the ring, and then it cuts to Tony Schiavone and Cody in the back of the limo. Tony Schiavone's telling a story about meeting with Willie Nelson, and he's meeting him at the pool at this hotel, and Willie Nelson comes down to the pool, but Dusty Rhodes is supposed to be down there as well. So Tony goes to Dusty Rhodes' room, and he walks into his hotel room, and Dusty Rhodes is completely naked. And Dusty asked if Willie Nelson is already at the pool. Tony says he said yes, and he said that Dusty said, "Good, the star has to always come out last." And then Cody and Tony are talking about Cody's drive and everything and the history. And this was just an excellent segment. And this is the kind of stuff that we should be seeing. There is like no yelling, but it adds tons of depth to the characters. I mean, we all know this type of stuff outside of storyline, but for those maybe not familiar with all the history with Tony Schiavone and Cody and all this, and people who aren't steeped in the history of wrestling, this is the type of stuff that you do have to bring up and convey to the current audience watching, because they might not know this stuff, and it really helps bring more depth to the characters of both Cody and Tony Schiavone. Just kind of the history and their interactions over the years, and if people don't know, they're kind of paths through the wrestling industry. And I would love to see more segments like this. It was very well scripted. It was very well performed. Or if it even was scripted, I couldn't tell. It could have been mostly off the cuff, maybe just some talking points or something like that. So very good. This is probably better than you'll see. This is one of the best promos I've seen ever. So it was very good. Next, and then it comes back to the arena. Best Friends and Orange Cassidy are announced in, and the voices are Rick and Morty. It was a really hilarious intro. They come out. Trent Beretta is dressed as Morty, and then both Orange Cassidy and Chucky T are dressed as Rick, which was really funny. They start off the match. Trent actually, his wig falls off, and he makes a big deal of it, put it on, and puts it back on. And then at one point, a little bit farther in the match, his wig gets stolen. And then later on, Orange Cassidy slides into the ring. He's wearing the shirt with the picture of him wearing the shirt with the picture of him wearing the shirt with the picture of him wearing the shirt. Always a pleaser. That's a pretty funny shirt. And then Orange Cassidy hits his low kicks, and then one of the jobbers takes a swing and he hits a drop kick. And then the referee actually puts Orange Cassidy's sunglasses back on because Orange Cassidy has his hands in his pocket. The Best Friends do a hug with Orange Cassidy in the middle, and then Orange Cassidy does a suicide dive with his hands in his pocket still. And then Best Friends are on top, finish it up with Strong Zero for the win. And then we go to a commercial break at this point. When we come back from commercial, Jericho comes out to the stage. He sits down at the contract signing table. Cody is shown arriving, and then he comes out with Tony Schiavone as well. Jericho is just kind of looking pissed, I guess, is the best way to describe it. Jericho is getting really good heel heat. He's getting boos. Cody is getting a very positive and loud reaction. Tony mentions the three judges thing. So for those who haven't heard, the match is a 60-minute time limit, and if it happens to reach time limit, there will be three judges that decide the winner of the match. This was announced on social media yesterday or the day before. I can't really remember. It's kind of a weird thing. I don't expect this match to go anywhere near the time limit, so it's not really a big deal, but I think they're starting to introduce this judges thing now, and it could play a role in the future. It could be years before we actually have a judge decision, because hitting a 60-minute time limit is going to be ridiculously rare, and there's not many guys who can, one, go that long without being completely blown out, or two, have a good match that long. We had Omega versus Okada. The second one hit the 60-minute time limit, and then their fourth one went 65 minutes, somewhere around 65, 70 minutes, somewhere around there. And those were great matches, and you have to have something very special to be able to pull off a match that long. So, not a big deal. I don't think it's really anything will come of it, at least not in this match. This match is not going to go 60 minutes. After Cody signs, Jericho quickly stands up, and he's kind of egging Cody on because Cody stands up too, because, we all know how these contract signing goes. They sign the contract, somebody flips the table, or somebody powerbombs somebody else through the table, blah, 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 blah. Jericho actually calls this out later on. I'm not going to waste my energy flipping this table or powerbombing you through it. And then there's like a "you suck" chant towards Jericho for egging Cody on. Jericho says that the match is the most important match in wrestling this year. It's definitely the most important match in Cody's entire career, and says that he can become everything that he wanted to be, and that's the world champ. Of course, he was NWA World Champion and ROH World Champion, but I think they're just going to ignore those. But if he loses, then he proves to all the millennial jackasses in the crowd that he's not as good as he thinks he is. After they sign, Jericho stands up. He tells the hillbillies in the arena to calm down. The crowd chants "asshole" at him, and then he says he's Le Champion, and he has poise and class, and then he offers a handshake to Cody, And when Jericho starts to leave, Cody pulls him in, and they're staring down each other. And Jericho says, "We can stand here all night, but I think you're going to be needed somewhere else." And then on the screen behind them pops up Sammy Guevara. He has commandeered a cameraman, and then Sammy's like, "Well, I think you're going to want to see this." And Dustin is getting beat up by Jake Hager. He drops him into the side of the limo. He slams him into the side of the limo, leaves a huge dent in the rear quarter panel. So somebody's got a dented limo. And then Jake Hager slams Dustin's arm in the door. And then Jericho comes out. He lights a cigar. And then he leaves with his crew yelling out from the car, "Happy Halloween, Dustin," or Cody. I'm not sure. I don't remember which one he said. Anyways, Cody and MJF come help Dustin into the building. And that's the end of that segment. Next up, we have what turned out to be a very good and very chaotic match. We had the Hybrid 2 and Kip Sabian versus Young Bucks and Kenny Omega. There's a really retro RPG video game package talking about Kenny Omega's past life as the cleaner and his friends. And he comes out to this really 8-bit techno music. And Omega comes out as Sans from Undertale. I didn't know what this was. Somebody had to tell me, but Undertale apparently is a video game that came out a few years ago. I was not familiar with it. The Bucks come out as Ken and Ryu from Street Fighter, just like they did at Fyter Fest, I believe it was. And then the match begins, super fast paced. People are flying everywhere. Omega gets into this reverse figure 4 by Angelico, and how it's actually broken up is, I believe it was Jack Evans did a moonsault onto Omega, and one of the Bucks did a moonsault onto Angelico. I don't remember which one. And at one point, Sabian hits Matt Jackson with a Poison Rana. Omega hits Snapdragons on all 3 of their opponents. And then you have the sequence where one by one, everybody runs into the ring and hits the previous person with something. So we had that sequence. Then Sabian. So Kenny Omega goes for, well, at least he signals for Rise of the Terminator, but that's broken up by Kip Sabian, and Kenny Omega is sent to the outside. He's standing there with both of the Young Bucks. So Kip Sabian does the Rise of the Terminator, and he goes for the dive, but he gets caught by the Elite, and they triple powerbomb him onto the ring apron. So I guess it's a triple apron bomb is what they end up giving him. And then after that, he's thrown back into the ring. Omega hits a massive V-trigger, one winged angel, and picks up the 3 count for their team. This is a very fun match, high speed, high pace, and lots of flippy stuff. So if you like that type of match, which I do, it was definitely a good match. And then while the Young Bucks were celebrating with all the people, they're giving high fives to everybody. They come down to a couple people wearing Rick and Morty masks, which were given out previously, and they're attacked, and it's Santana and Ortiz who are wearing the Rick and Morty masks, and they attack the Young Bucks, and then they run off when Kenny Omega sees what's going on the outside, and then just kind of run off. And then we have a segment where Peter Avalon comes out to the ring. He starts cutting a promo on the town, saying that it's a dump, essentially. And then we see Moxley coming out one of the aisles through the crowd, and his music hits. He walks into the ring, walks right up to Avalon, gives him paradigm shift, sends him packing. And then Moxley, we're finally getting the Moxley promo that we've been waiting for. Moxley comes out, he's talking about how the match is unsanctioned, and he's mad that it doesn't count. He says that AEW is treating him like a freak. They want to put him in a box so he can't create any trouble, and how it's going to be AEW, AEW is trying to prevent him from being who he is, and how he feels about AEW's win-loss record is that they can shove it up their ass. And he's the craziest, he's the sickest son of a bitch in AEW, and he's going to beat Kenny Omega within an inch of his life. And anyone who wants to stop him from marching to the beat of his own drum can kiss his ass and stay the hell out of his way. And that was the promo. It was a fiery promo, very good promo, and it's great that we're finally getting all these promos. So far, so good. We've had, like 3 or 4 promos? Finally, some character development and storyline progression, not just in the wrestling match, which is fine, and all of them have been definitely good. So that was great to see that we finally have the Jon Moxley promo that we were all waiting for. And then next up we had was the final match of the evening, and this is the tag team title finals, and this was between Lucha Bros and SCU. Again, Aubrey Edwards has drawn the reffing duties for the title matches. I think she's done all of them so far. She's done, maybe she didn't do the women's match, but she definitely did the first heavyweight match between Jericho and Hangman Page. She did the one with Darby Allin and Jericho, and now she's doing the tag titles as well. Aubrey is working hard to get the extra man out of the ring before they can even start the match, but as soon as the match starts, it just breaks down. All 4 men rush into the ring and they're brawling. Rey Fenix hits this crazy, he is amazing. So he is standing on the top turnbuckle. He runs like more than halfway down the rope to give this, tightrope kick. That was insane. The crowd is really split on what team they're chanting for. There are very loud SCU chants. There are very loud Lucha Bro chants, and it sounds like they are pretty much on the same level as far as volume goes. We had, during a pin attempt from Kazarian on Phoenix, Penta runs in to try to break it up, but Kazarian sees him and pulls Phoenix up off the mat as Penta is trying to kick Kazarian, but he ends up missing and kicking Phoenix right in the back of the head. But of course, it doesn't really play into the finish or anything like that. So, it was a kind of a misstep, but nothing huge came out of it, unfortunately. Funny, I noticed with all of them flying around, somebody held up a sign. They were right in view of the hard camera that said "grab a hold." I had a little chuckle off of that. Penta holds Kaz across his knees on the outside, so he's kind of got him in like the slingshot position, but he's just slung over his knees. Phoenix does a leg drop from inside the ring over the top rope to the floor onto Kazarian. It was insane. The Young Bucks do a similar spot where they're draped over in the ring, and then somebody does just a flip over the top rope senton, like slingshot senton. But this was obviously over the top rope to the floor leg drop, and then Phoenix and Kazarian go through this really sloppy arm breaker spot or armbar attempt spot. I don't know what they're trying to go for, but they're just kind of flopping around, rolling around, trying to get into some semblance of something that looks like a attempted arm breaker, but it just didn't work. Kazarian hits Angel's Wings to finally get a tag over Scorpio Sky after he's been worked over for quite some time. Phoenix is on the apron, and Kazarian goes for a Rana off the top rope, and kind of with the Hurricanrana, you have that swing around. Well, his foot got caught on the top rope while he was swinging, and his head and neck slammed right into the edge of the apron. It looked like that sucked and was definitely not supposed to happen. Behind the ref's back, while Scorpio Sky and Phoenix are in the ring, Pentagon and Kazarian are on the outside. Pentagon gives Kazarian a powerbomb through the timekeeper's table. JR had a really funny line where he said that the concrete broke Kazarian's fall. And then Pentagon goes to Scorpio Sky. He gets him up in the package pile driver position, but Kazarian runs in and distracts Phoenix before he can do the double stomp for the assisted package pile driver. And in that mayhem, Scorpio Sky gets out of the package pile driver, cradles Pentagon, and gets the 3 count. So SCU is the first and new AEW Tag Team Champions. Really coming out of this, I don't think there was a bad choice. Something that I did notice while they were holding it, it looks like the inside of the belts are snakeskin lined, similar to how the belt was when Stone Cold had his custom broken skull belt that was snakeskin lined. So it looks exactly like that. The inside of it looks just like that. So this is a really good show. There weren't really any downtime. The only match that kind of lost the crowd a bit was the Shanna and Shida match. They kind of slowed down a lot during like the commercial break time, but even after that, they were just having a hard trouble getting the crowd into that match. But this was a really good episode, and I think it was probably my favorite so far. The matches were really good. All the promos were excellent, which was good to see. And finally, we're getting some movement on those things. And hopefully we will see more of it in the coming weeks. But as far as this show goes, there wasn't a ton to complain about as far as what I saw. We still have some loose rules and enforcement or adherence to those rules. So that's still a little bit sloppy at times. They need to get tightened up, especially in tag matches, and especially with Pentagon and Phoenix. They are really bad at making tags because they're used to, the Mexican tag rules where once somebody leaves the ring, the other person can get in without actually having a physical tag. So that obviously causes some breakdowns. So those need to be tightened up. I know they've said that instead of the normal 5 count from other promotions, when the illegal man is in the ring, they get a 10 count now. But even then, it still wasn't really adhered to. The refs did not do a very good job on even attempting to try to enforce that rule. So it is what it is, but I guess that's how we go. As far as next week's matches, I'm not really sure what is on tap because they really didn't announce anything for next week. So there would be one of my other complaints is they did not take time out to say what was going to be happening next week, especially because it is the go-home show before Full Gear next Saturday. So in 10 days from now. 10 days? 11 days? Something like that. So that is one thing I think they still need to do. They still need to just dedicate 30 seconds before the final match and just say, all right, next week we have this match. And if they only have 2 matches already scheduled, fine. And just say, hey, watch social media, follow us on social media for the announcements for the next matches, for the rest of the card or whatever. But they need to hype up next week so people come back. We have this stuff. Everything's kind of building at Full Gear, but there's nothing to say, well, come back next week and see what happens. Because it's like, well, we know a lot of the matches that are happening at Full Gear, so why should I come back next week? And that's kind of something, they just need to work on that hook. 30 seconds, run down the next week, this match happening, this match happening, this person will be appearing, this match happening. And then stay tuned to social media for any other announcements. So 30 seconds to a minute, not a big deal. Take it right before the final match of the evening. Get it out of the way. Hype people up to see it next week. That, with having the 2-hour format, they only have so much time. They've been doing good at filling up the time, and it doesn't feel like they're filling the time with nonsense or junk that we don't care about. So, it is a double-edged sword. You don't have enough time, which is fine because that alone can keep people coming back. Just give it a little hype. That's all. That's all I'm asking for, is just a little hype for the following week. But overall, not bad. Also, again, no promotion of AEW Dark. They need to promote AEW Dark because there have been some awesome matches on there that people should see. And they are just not doing a good job at promoting it, and or even announcing what matches are going to be taking place on AEW Dark next Tuesday. We all know they're filming the matches that night. They're already scheduled. They know they're taking place. They could easily say this match, and this match on AEW Dark next Tuesday. Tune in on YouTube. 15 seconds, you're done. You've at least promoted that AEW Dark exists. They need to start doing that because the records or the matches, the win-losses on that show matter. So they definitely need to promote it more on the Dynamite show. I know it's a lot because they have just the 2 hours and they've been doing good on making every use of every minute that they've had. But again, just, massage stuff around. You can easily take a minute off of a couple of these matches. Some of the matches did not need to go as long as they did. Some went through an ad break when there was really no need for that particular match to go long enough to need an ad break. So you could do, give the match a little bit of time, and instead of going to the ad, push the ad another 2 more minutes, finish up the match, and then do an ad, do a very short promo segment, a couple minutes, pull out your other ad, and then continue on. There are ways around this, so you make sure you get your ad breaks in there, but also to fit in the stuff you need to fit in. And I think they're getting better at it. Obviously, this episode was much better at getting promos in here, so they found time to get these promos in. Now I just want to see them kind of bring it all together, get the promos in, promote AEW Dark, promote next week's show, and then I think you will be off and running, and that kind of formula would be fine as long as you kind of stick to it with all those promotions. Make sure you're promoting what's coming up. They did a good job at promoting a couple times of getting tickets to their live events, which is just all their Wednesday Night Dynamite and the pay-per-view coming up, Full Gear. But so they did a good job. They promoted that at least once, maybe twice. That go to AEW Tix for tickets to the AEW shows, and that they still have some tickets for a Full Gear pay-per-view, the Full Gear pay-per-view in Baltimore. So that's something good on them, promoting their live events for people to go see live. So that's good. Now we just need to bring it full circle, get your show promoted, AEW Dark, AEW Dynamite, come back next week, come to Tuesday to the YouTube channel. That's it. So all in all, excellent show tonight. If I had to rate it on a 1 to 5 scale, I would probably put this at a very high 4, maybe even a low 5. Is an excellent show. I did not have too many qualms with it other than what I just talked about. And those are just some of these are just minor nitpicky things. Like, I am not personally offended by them not doing a couple of these things as far as promoting next week, promoting AEW Dark. I'm not personally offended by them, but I think it's something that they're missing. But these are really nitpicky things at this point because the show is excellent. As far as the content within the show, I have had next to no problems with a lot of their content. Some of their matches have been a little sloppy here and there, but even then, the matches there haven't been any terrible matches. They've all been serviceable at worst, and then there were a bunch of very good matches. So not a whole lot to complain about. So that's all I have for you this week. Be sure to like and subscribe. If you're watching this over on YouTube, if you're listening to the podcast, I am doing this live on YouTube right after Wednesday Night Dynamite goes off the air. So click the channel link in the show notes for this. Also, you can just search on YouTube for That's Wrestling. You'll find it in the search results right away. Also, if you are watching this over on YouTube, you'd like to get the podcast version, I do release some other shows throughout the sometimes throughout the week, because New Japan has a very weird schedule. So I do New Japan stuff as well, and those are going to come out randomly. I'm currently trying to get my way through Junior Tag League. There were a lot of shows that just had like one match on them, so I'm just kind of going through. So I'm probably just going to break it up into 2 episodes. Hopefully I'll record one tomorrow, the first half, and then the Junior Tag League wraps up in a couple days at Power Struggle. So I will wrap up Junior Tag League and do my Power Struggle review at the same time early next week. So I think that's probably the best way to do it at this point, just because I am a little bit behind on New Japan because they pump out so much content, especially with like these types of leagues. It can take a bit. So if you would like the podcast version, you can find it on all your various podcast applications. You can also head over to that'swrestling.com to pick up the RSS feed over there if it's not in your podcast directory of choice. And if it's not, shoot me an email, eric@that'swrestling.com, to let me know what podcast app it's not available in, so I can submit it and get it into the podcast app. Because I'm pretty much on all the ones I could possibly think of, plus ones I didn't think of that my podcast host automatically submits you to. So if you don't see it, shoot me an email. Also, if you have any questions, comments, feedback, a discussion topic you'd like me to cover, do a show on, as far as AEW or New Japan, or just have some weird questions, shoot me an email, eric@that'swrestling.com. You can also find me over on Twitter @that'swrestling1. That's with the number 1, because somebody unfortunately took the other one, but they haven't touched it since like 2012. And yeah, until then, I'll see you next time, and thanks for watching That's Wrestling. See you guys.